evolution has brought us to a point where, where we care about our water and what we're drinking and, what's going into our body. And that relates to, let's change the rules and the system to accommodate that.
Hi guys, I am out here today on a job site with Dale, who has just installed this septic tank. You can see behind us, there's a septic tank in the ground that's ready to be covered over. It's a very cold morning and it's very bright, and I'm actually crying from the sun in my eyes, but here we are. We're going to talk about septic systems, sewer systems, considerations when you are purchasing land to build a custom home on. So if you're in that position where you're wanting to buy land to build on, this is a conversation you want to hear. We're going to talk about utilities, septic, sewer. Okay, so tell me a little bit about the system that you have installed here.
Okay, the system we have installed here is basically a hybrid system. It gravity feeds out of the buildings to the tank that's behind us. The tank that's behind us is designed by Orenco Systems, and it has what's called a high head pump in one end of it. And so we gravity drain out of the buildings into this first riser. Inside the tank, it separates the liquids from the solids, and after those are separated, the pump on the other end then pumps out of the other riser all the way up to the road and connects to a PUD-owned a drain field. and it's the reason it's a hybrid system is part of a full-on septic system is on our property. The other half of the septic system is PUD owned down the road. So the particular system that we chose here by Orenco, one of the reasons we chose it is because of the fiberglass tank versus a poly tank. Poly tanks are not that they're bad, but in our soil conditions, my thought is that the round reinforced fiberglass tank is stronger. And with the soil conditions here, it's pretty clay and rocky, so the soil gets pretty heavy. And the extra $500 for this tank to us was worth it on this project. So with that, this system then also has the other thing that this Orenco design system has is the high head pump is one of the biggest pumps you can purchase. And on this particular lot in this development, we're pumping from here 20 feet above our head to the connection in the road. So we wanted a real strong pump that would be able to pick up both buildings and have no problem pumping the liquids 20 feet above us to the road. Now on other lots, they're pumping downhill, so they only have to raise to the top of the tank and then off it goes. So they could go with a different system and probably save a little bit of money, but here we're trying to look at the long term and the height we have to pump, and the investment in the Orenco system is probably long term a better buy.
A lot of long-term investments are a little more expensive in the beginning, but save a lot of money over the length of the life
correct.
of the product.
That's correct.
So, as I understand it, there's kind of more options for septic systems now because we're trending towards more environmentally friendly ways of dealing with things. What have you learned, in the process of the installation of these and your licensing, and what do you know about where it's going in terms of the options for tanks or how things are being done today?
Okay, so where it's going is there is going to be less and less full septic systems on your property, other than if you're buying 5, 10, 20, 50 acres where you're way out, but where you're in a more rural situation, like for instance this property, the trend is going to the PUD owned drain fields, because nowadays they're much more sophisticated. This drain field goes through like 8 different filters before the liquids ever go to the ground. It has much more cleaner fluids than being filtered by the natural soil, and that's all to protect the water system. The PUDs and the states and county government officials have figured out that one of the problems with septic is you get person after person after person after person that has a septic system, and then they don't maintain it very well. And 20 years down the road, you have a septic system that's not operating efficiently, the people can't afford to fix it, and it's just not doing what it was intended to do, right? And it's one of those things where evolution has brought us to a point where where we care about our water and what we're drinking and what's going into our body, and that relates to let's change the rules and the system to accommodate that and be more controlled, um, you know to protect our water. Water's these days more valuable than gold.
Yeah. Would you say then that there's more requirements or regulations now than there used to be in terms of septic systems?
Absolutely, absolutely. And 20 years ago, you could just put a concrete tank unsealed in the ground and dump into one end and go out and run some pipe 10 inches under the soil, and that was and as a drain field, and that was your system. And it would just basically separate the solids from the liquid and let the liquid get separated by the dirt or get filtered by the soil. And nowadays, as you can see in this system, it's a full fiberglass tank, um, completely reinforced. There's baffles in here that separate everything. It's going through multiple. Then it goes through a pump system that not only grinds and separates solids from liquids. That then is a first stage of separation. That goes on to the PUD system, which has 8 more stages of separation. But so it went from just pumping out of a concrete vault into the ground to multi-stage filtering that we have today. And I think that especially in like a subdivision like we're standing in here today, that people are more attracted to that. One of the things I think that sell lots in this area is that you can buy yourself an acre of land, and you still have the protection from your sewer system, from your water system, and you have clean water from the aquifer that comes on the hill up here, and that attracts people to properties like this.
Sure. So that's one of the differences between a septic system and a sewer system. With a septic, you're going to have some maintenance on your own property.
Correct.
Versus a sewer system where you're really just tapping into a public system.
Yeah, well, a sewer system is really more like in the city or in most your developments where your homes are tighter. You're hooking your home to a gravity system that is a pipe that goes to the city sewer, and you don't have any septic tank at all. We have kind of a hybrid. Because we don't have the septic tank and then the drain field on our property. The drain field is owned by the PUD at another location, and the septic tank is here. So it's kind of a hybrid, and we pump from our septic tank, we pump into what would be the same basic connection as a city sewer pipe, but it goes to a PUD-owned drain field, if you will, treatment facility down the road. So we're kind of more of a hybrid on this particular property. Now, if you're going to put a full septic system on your property, then your soils become a bit of a thought process too, because it's a lot cheaper to put a septic drain field in sandy or gravelly soil than it is in rocky or really clayey soil.
What would you say are some of the most important things that a person looking to build a custom home or looking to buy their land to build in the future would need to consider when it comes to utilities, sewer, septic, etc.?
Let's see. Well, one of the first things is the location of your home, shop, or all the structures that are going to be on your property. How far from the utilities supplied are those? Because your line's connecting from the supply point, which in this case is up at the road up there, to the particular structure. So sometimes that's really close, and sometimes that's a long distance. And every foot of pipe has a cost to it. So the farther you go, the more expensive it is going to be to put in all of those systems: water, electricity, gas, and septic, of course. So
I got a pause for a second. That is literally making me
is
cry.
is it? Well, you can edit this anyway.
Here's what I'm going to do.
Don't cry. Be happy.
All right, it's bright enough now that I have stolen Dale's sunglasses so that I can continue talking to him without crying. So, here we go. I'm a customer, I'm looking for land, or not even just septic, but what do I need to know to make a good decision for now and the future in terms of the utilities that are already there or location as it relates to utilities?
Or location. Okay, so first thing is one of the first things you want to do is get an idea of in the area. There, most of the time, if you're buying a piece of property, there's somebody who's already built down the road or real close somewhere. So get an idea of what kind of septic system they have. Odds are you're going to have to do something really close to the same. Septic systems are all designed based on a few factors. One, the soil type. Two, the regulations of the area. They do change a little bit. There's a general set of regulations, but there's adaptations to each county and city and municipality that can upgrade from the basics. And so, you know, for instance, in this area, you have to use a hybrid system like we're using here. So, so anybody buying in this particular development would know that you've got a choice of 2 hybrid systems to put in. You can get an idea what they cost. And then from there, it's how far away from the road or how much piping on your property are you going to have. You know, for a great example, this tank from here to the farthest building is 185 feet away. To the closest building, we're going to be 75 feet away to the tank. Now, if you look at the project going on behind us, their tank is only 30 feet away from the first building and then 70 feet to the connection at the road. So they have a lot less piping there, but they also then aren't set up to add more buildings on the property. They'd have to dig that up and adjust the system, where the system we're putting in is already adapted and set up for the future buildings that are going to go on here.
So you mentioned soil conditions and
Soil
how impactful those can be. That I guess
Yes.
it seems like maybe people don't always know how much the soil conditions can impact the cost of the beginning stages of a home.
Yep.
Can you say more about that?
Okay, so you know, whether it's your foundation or your septic system or your water or your bringing in your electricity, if you're digging in really rocky soil, that's the highest cost soil to dig in, because you never know when you're going to run into a boulder that's the size of a truck, and the piece of equipment that it takes to dig it out or move it or adjust it can cost $5,000 just to bring in and move that rock. So rocky conditions can have some unforeseen possible costs that could get expensive fast. Sandy conditions, very easy to dig in. Um, they don't filter the septic as well in sand, but they're real easy to dig in. Typically, the septic system design in sand is easier to install in a little less maintenance. But in that too, typically you're going to find sand down in the low areas and not up where you have a view. So there's a give and take that you have to look at. The other thing is really clay soils. Here where we have a hybrid system, the clay soil doesn't really affect us because we're pumping into PUD drain field, so we don't have to put the drain field on our property. But if it was a place where each site had its own drain field, then the water doesn't drain well in clay soil. So then you have to go to what's called a pressure mound system, and they can be fairly expensive to install. You know, versus a typical pipe and rock system that you can put in sand, a pressure mound system can be double. So, and then let's say you were in rock, you'd also probably end up with a pressure mound system, and you could have the excavation expense of trying to dig it into that rock. So your soil conditions can really play, you know, can double or more the cost of your septic system. And again, that's the kind of thing that you can look at your neighbor and see, what did your neighbor have to do down the road, and get an idea of what system you'd have to put in, or a good builder could then put together a good idea of the cost of a system for your property prior to purchase and design.
So let's talk about a brand new piece of land.
Yes, brand new piece of land.
Customers looking to build on it.
Uh-huh.
Of course, they're going to be thinking about septic. They're also going to be thinking about electricity, water, all the different utilities that they will need. What is the
Gas,
starting
communication.
place if they have found something, perfect place to build, but there's nothing connected? There's nothing existing there. Where do they start? What questions should they be asking? What are the considerations that are going to be super important for them? Kind of bullet point it for us.
Okay, so bullet point it. First of all, electricity and your communications, TV and phone, cable, are all usually going to be in the same right-of-way. Natural gas typically is going to be in that right-of-way. So the first thing you want to find out is how far away is that right-of-way? Where do you have to go to get those utilities? Is it, at the corner of your property? Is it on the other side of the road and you have to, bore a hole under the road to get there? Is it, 3 miles away? And we've had projects where it's a half a mile away. And then water. Is that a well? Is there a city system or a PUD system that you can dig to and bring water in, or do you have to have a well drilled? And if so, if you have to have a well drilled, how deep? Typically you can go to your local driller and he'll know in your area how deep the wells are, because typically there's going to be a well pre-drilled in the today's day and age, where they can give you an idea that your neighbor had to go 570 feet to get clean water, so you know how deep you have to go, and they can give you a price per foot to get there. So and is that worth it, or is it more efficient to dig across your property and go find PUD water system? Is that even available, and how far away is that? So
Okay.
you want to look at all those in the beginning of prior to purchasing your property, so you understand what you're getting into.
How would someone in that situation begin to estimate kind of a total cost when you don't necessarily know excavation wise what kind of soil you're going to run into?
Well, my opinion is this: if you're going to build a custom home on a piece of property that you own, you're better off to find a good builder right off the bat. Somebody who understands all those systems, not just the guy who's throwing you a low number on throwing your house up and who can do it the cheapest, but who really understands all those systems and can help you through those, right? Help you make quality decisions and knows who to contact to get the proper information so that you can put together a budget. Every piece of property, that budget's going to vary, and some are going to be high, some are going to be lows, and you have to be able to make a decision. Is the view on this property worth the extra $10,000 to get the utilities up to my house? And a good quality builder should be able to answer that for you. And on the same hand, if your builder says, oh, well, I don't do that, that to me would be a red flag for building a custom home, because if they don't actually understand all the systems that connect to your building, there's going to be a lot of hidden costs that they also are not also explaining to you because they don't understand them, that are going to come with having your home be ready for you to live in.
Okay, I apologize for not being able to make it through this video without crying or wearing Dale's sunglasses, but I hope you enjoyed my new look. If you want more information on how to choose your land, considerations, I even have a checklist on the website. You can find that on Inland Northwest Home or at northridgecontracting.com under resources. You can check out a really easy way to think about all the things that you should be considering when choosing your land. We'll have more videos coming up with different topics for you, and we hope you've enjoyed this one, and we'll see you again.
Have a great day. Don't worry, be happy.